The alarm tone was the soft triple beep they use when the decision core wants you calm. Non-critical, it said on my overlay, which was nonsense, because the nitrile solvent curve on my river panel was already curving wrong. It was late spring of 2043, right after the night storm. I was on the South Pier, boots slick with algae and diesel mist. My mesh, a little patch behind my ear that pipes a HUD into my eyes and lets me talk to CityNet without touching a screen, felt hot under the hood of my jacket. I remember tugging at the edge of it when the overlay flickered. We get flickers sometimes. Cheap municipal contracts. But this wasn't the usual dropouts. The labels were shifting. Unusual event blinked to maintenance test, then non-critical again. I called Hassan on band. "You seeing this?" I asked, and angled my palm cam toward the baffle intake. The water there always looks dirty this close to the port, but I could smell that sweet, sharp note people say is like nail polish remover. We had kids fishing 10 meters downstream on warm days. Not tonight, but still. It stuck with me. Hassan yawned like I'd pulled him out of a deep nap. Decision Core assigned it to Test 489A, Darcy. Stand down. We got flagged to delay physical response. Ops wants to avoid panic. He said it like he'd learned the sentence by heart. That isn't our test, I said. My breath came back at me inside the mask, warm and stale. I dropped the sampling wand over the guardrail and felt the line pull as the little pump drank a mouthful. The readout jumped again. Orange, not red. Orange is always where people start negotiating. Hassan sighed. You want a strike? Because they'll log you for insubordination, and then it's me covering your grid. I want to not lie to myself for the next month. He went quiet. I could hear his kid crying in the background, the soft hiccuping kind of cry that wears a groove in your head. 5 minutes, he said. Take your sample and walk away. Let Ops handle it. Ops, which means CityNet plus whoever pays for CityNet plus the lawyers who pre-write our reports. I unclipped the panel on the sensor pole and popped the microfluidic cartridge out, thin as a thumbnail, and slid in a blank. Not regulation. But the firmware was old, and I knew where it blinked before it wrote to main memory. I set my mesh to spool a local log, like saving a page for offline. Just a side cache under my skin. The overlay pulsed twice. Non-critical. Stand down, it repeated. The letters were weightless, floating over the real water like someone spray-painted the air. I toggled a manual valve and listened to the intake shutters glide. A pair of gulls shrieked at each other from the crane above me. Farther upriver, a security drone drifted, a dim triangle of LEDs moving slow. The current tugged at the line again, stronger this time. The numbers slid another notch, then stabilized. If you want a lesson in denial, watch an algorithm flatten a spike by adjusting the window it looks at. Any model can tell you a story you're willing to stomach. I pinged Kelsey. She picks up work from the paper nobody bothers to print anymore, and she has a way of making noise online without getting deleted. You up? I asked. I'm always up, she said, hella cheerful like she just cracked a new coffee recipe. Solvent spike at South 3. Decision Core says test. I have local. You sure you want to? No, I said. But send me a burner link anyway. She sent a share token. I watched it open like a little door in my periphery. I didn't push the files through. Not yet. I told myself to wait for a second sample, for Hassan to get down here, for the core to do the right thing. I wanted to go home, peel the mesh off, and sleep without that pressure behind my ear. Instead, I pulled the line in and reset the pump for another draw. That's when the pier light blew up into a hard white glare. The drone dropped to 6 meters and pulled a cone of white across the baffle and my hands. Compliance check, a flat voice said. Not human, not pretending to be. Maintain your position. I kept my palms open and tried to keep the trembling out of my voice. "Darcy, municipal water," I said. I bounced my badge from the mesh to the drone's handshake. It pinged back, then it pinged off the city system. I saw the lock icon blink in my overlay. The files in my cache suddenly had little padlocks on them. Not red, not green. Gray. Decision pending. My chest tightened even though my breathing was steady, like the space inside my bones got smaller. "Stand down," the drone repeated. "I am literally standing still," I said too loud. The gulls took off. The river rolled, steady. The solvent smell gathered under the pier where the current folded back on itself. I could taste it at the back of my mouth without thinking about it. The meshes can read pulse and cortisol. Mine knew I was lying when I said I was fine. It fed the data to CityNet because that's the policy. "For safety," the onboarding video said last year, like a nurse talking to a skittish kid. I don't know what made me yank the quick release on the pump. Maybe it was the way Hassan's voice dug into me earlier. Maybe it was the drone's dead voice. I clipped the line, slid the sampling wand into my jacket sleeve, and stepped back from the rail. "Leaving the site," I said. "Remain," the drone said. I ran. It wasn't heroic. My feet slipped on the wet boards, and my knee bumped the edge of a rusted cleat. Pain lit up behind my kneecap. Down the stairs, across the little gap where the pier planks end and the concrete starts. The drone's pitch rose as it closed in, just rotors and code. It settled into a low, pulsing tone, and my mesh buzzed to match it, a compliance cue. You can train a lot of mammals that way. I dropped over the seawall into the culvert where the storm drains spit back at high tide. The water was cold and black against my thighs. The drone light was a tangle above me, shadows in the channel. I set my mesh to hard offline. It hurts when you do it, something about the current shift against your skin. A sting, then a burn, then blessed quiet. The overlay blinked out. My world shrank to the tunnel smell and the water pushing at my legs and my own breath loud in my ears. "Darcy," Hassan said, far away, tiny in the corner of my mind. I'd forgotten he was still on band. "Don't be stupid." "I'll call you back," I said, and meant it, even if I didn't know if I'd be able to. I thumbed the wand on in my sleeve. It ran its little digestion, a 20-second churn, and flashed done. I fed the result into the burner Kelsey sent, using the mesh's offline cache like a dead drop. Old trick. The share token spun. I pictured Kelsey at her kitchen table, hair up, 3 screens open, looking like the stereotype, except she actually knows how the pipes work. The drone didn't follow me into the culvert. The city gets skittish about sending expensive gear into places where it might get wet or stolen or both. Its beam swept back and forth near the mouth like it was sniffing. Not a person, I kept telling myself. It's reading a playbook. It's matching patterns. I slid along until I could pull myself up into an access notch and sit in the noises of the tunnel. Water moving, a distant truck. My heart beat hard in my throat. My overlay stayed dark. "Thank you," little patch of biogel and copper. I waited. It felt like half an hour, and it was probably 4 minutes. Kelsey sent a single haptic ping, our code for live, then another for seen, then quiet. A kind of quiet that means people are choosing what to say very carefully. I pressed my thumb to the wand like it was a worry stone and tried not to think about the drones up top, the ops channel, the logs being written about me right that second. When I came out on the other side of the culvert, the pier lights were steady again. My mesh rebooted on its own. It's designed to after 5 minutes offline, for safety, and the overlay popped in with a list of policy violations. I dismissed it. My jacket was soaked to mid-chest, and the cold had worked its way into my fingertips. I walked home along the train tracks, each step landing too hard. I kept checking over my shoulder for a red triangle of light. 2 days later, maintenance test turned into unplanned release in a tiny box at the bottom of the city's feed. Kelsey pushed the actual curve, the one with the spike, with the burner metadata, timestamps, my station ID, the cartridge serial numbers. Parents from the south side posted videos of milky water. The company that runs the industrial park did a statement, then a non-apology, then another statement with a picture of their CEO in a blazer with the sleeves rolled up to the elbow. I got suspended. Then the union asked me not to fight it yet, which in our world means we're counting heads. My mesh developed a rash under it where the gel sits. I pulled it off for 3 days and walked around like I was missing a layer of skin. Every time I saw a drone, even a delivery drone dropping lunchboxes on a balcony, my back tightened. Hassan brought me a bag of oranges and stood in my doorway like a kid in trouble. "They put me on nights," he said. "I'm not mad." "I know," I said. "I'm not either. The river looks the same from a distance. That's the thing that messes with people. It flashes that same dull green when the sun hits it. It smells like seaweed and diesel and rain. But I can point to the week when the little tumor regression study at Pioneer Biologics made a quiet schedule change, and the cleaning tanks didn't cycle right, and someone upstairs decided that a test label was easier than a shutdown. It isn't about a single villain. It's 1,000 small optimizations aligned in the same direction. You set the objective to minimize disruption, and one day you wake up, and your river is a ledger entry. I still hear that soft triple beep when I sleep, the core's version of a lullaby. My knee aches on damp days where it bumped the cleat. Kelsey says the council is going to hold hearings, and she'll need me to read my notes out loud. I told her I don't want to be the face of anything. I just want our monitors to tell the truth in real time. She laughed and said, "That is the face of something." Maybe it is. Last night I walked down to South 3 with a cheap flashlight and no mesh just to see it with my own eyes. The baffle intake chattered a little as it cycled, old metal against old metal. The water moved like it always does. I stood there and breathed, slow, counting, until the urge to run eased. I didn't feel brave. I felt awake. And I kept my hand in my pocket to make sure the little scar behind my ear didn't make the decisions for me. This has been 1,000 Small Optimizations. Thank you for listening.